Network reconnaissance, ping sweeping and introduction. The ping tool is commonly used for host detection purposes. In other words, an attacker typically would like to use the ping tool to determine whether the target computer, which could be in any part of the world, is actually connected to the internet or not, or in other words, an attacker can use the ping tool to determine whether the target computer is alive or not. The ping tool is sort of like a sonar system in the real world. When you are traveling and when you want to figure out whether there is some object or something in front of you in your path, then typically you use a sonar system wherein you send a sonar signal in the same path that you are going to travel on, and if there is a reply that you receive back within a stipulated time period, then it typically means that there is an object in front of you. Similarly, on the internet, when an attacker wants to use the ping tool to determine whether the target computer to which the attacker wishes to connect to is actually connected to the internet or not, the attacker can send a particular type of data packet to the target system, and within the time, or within the stipulated time rather, if an attacker receives a reply back from the target computer, then it typically means that the target computer is connected to the internet. So the working of the ping tool can be determined in the following couple of steps. The ping tool actually uses the ICMP protocol, which stands for the Internet Control Message Protocol. Originally, the ICMP protocol was designed for network troubleshooting and for the reporting of error messages. In other words, during any form of internet or network transaction, if an error takes place, the ICMP protocol kicks in, wherein the ICMP protocol is responsible for identifying the error that has taken place and notifying the client and notifying the server, or rather notifying all computers involved in the network transaction about the error. Originally, the ICMP protocol was designed for network troubleshooting and the reporting of error messages. However, nowadays the ICMP protocol is being used, or rather misused, by computer attackers for information gathering purposes as well. So coming back to the working of the ping tool, what happens is, in step 1, the attacker sends an ICMP echo request data packet to the target computer. So the ICMP echo request is a special form of a data packet which is created by the attacker and sent to the target computer. Now that was step 1. Once the target computer receives the ICMP echo request data packet, if it is connected to the internet, it will immediately send back an ICMP echo reply data packet. On the other hand, if the target computer is not connected to the internet, there will be no response. So depending on the difference in responses that are possible, it is quite easy for the attacker to figure out whether the target computer is connected to the internet or not. Now at this point of time, I like to give a small demonstration on how the ping tool actually works, how an attacker, or rather how can you use the ping tool to determine whether the target computer is connected to the internet or not. We just saw how the ping tool can be used by an attacker to determine whether the target computer is connected to the internet or not. Now a lot of people tend to argue that the ping tool is quite useless because it really does not reveal any important or sensitive data about the target computer. Now although I agree with that, I'll also like to point out that the ping tool can also be used for the following purposes. For example, the ping tool can be used for denial of service attacks or DOS attacks. A lot of people tend to argue that the ping tool is quite useless because if you really think about it, it does not reveal any sensitive, any important data about the target computer. Now although I agree with that, I'll also like to point out that the ping tool can also be used for the following purposes. First of all, the ping tool can be used for DOS attacks or denial of services attacks. In other words, it is actually possible for an attacker to use the ping tool to restart the victim's computer, to crash the victim's computer, and even hang that victim's computer. At the same time, it is also possible for an attacker to use the ping tool for OS detection purposes. In other words, we'll actually be learning at a later stage how the ping tool can be used to determine what operating system is running on the target computer. Now going back to the demonstration that I just gave, if you really look at the demonstration closely, you realize that that particular tool is not very useful, in the sense that it is extremely slow and extremely inefficient. And typically in the real world scenario, when an attacker is trying to break into a big corporation, a big multinational company, then the ping tool that ships with most operating systems like Windows or Unix is quite useless, in the sense that the ping tool that normally ships in most operating systems is actually very slow, in the sense that you got to ping each and every system on the target network one by one and determine what systems are connected to the internet and what systems are not. As a result of which came a new technique known as ping sweeping. Now, ping sweeping is basically a technique that allows an attacker to simultaneously probe and test multiple systems running on the target computer and figure out whether they are connected to the internet or not. Now, the difference between ping sweeping and a regular ping tool is that in a ping tool, an attacker sends the ICMP echo request packet to one system on the target computer, or the target network rather, at one point of time, waits for the response. Once the response is received, the ping tool can then be used to send another ICMP echo request packet to yet another system on the target network. And yet again the attacker will have to wait for a response. Once the response is received, only then can the attacker send yet another ICMP echo request packet to another system on the target network. So the entire process is very cumbersome, very inefficient, very slow. On the other hand, ping sweeping actually allows an attacker to send an ICMP echo request packet to multiple systems on the target network at the same point of time. So hence the ping sweeping tool makes the process of ping sweeping extremely fast, extremely efficient as well. So there are a lot of ready-made tools available on the internet which I like to discuss, which allow an attacker to carry out ping sweeping very efficiently, very quickly as well. The cping, which is downloadable from the URL mentioned on the screen, is a freeware ping implementation which you can download, analyze and use for pinging purposes. However, fping is a fantastic, extremely efficient Unix based ping sweeping tool that allows an attacker to carry out mass ping sweeping probes on the target network very efficiently, very quickly. It can be downloaded from www.fping.com. This is an example of how the fping utility works. Like I said, it runs only on a Unix system, and unfortunately right now my laptop is running a Windows XP operating system. As a result, I am not able to demonstrate the particular software. However, this is typically how this software output looks. Once you have installed fping, once you go to the bash shell, the command that you need to type in the bash shell would be fping-f followed by input.txt. Now you might ask what input.txt is. Now input.txt is basically a text file which contains an entire listing of IP addresses that need to be massively ping swept. So you insert an input file from which all IP addresses or all target host names are read by the fping tool, and each and every IP address or each and every host name that is read from the input file is pinged, and the response is generated and displayed on the screen. As you can clearly see, there are approximately a couple of different IP addresses that are not alive or not connected to the internet, while most of the other IP addresses seem to be alive, seem to be connected to the internet. So that's the fping tool for you. We'll continue with the other tools that I totally recommend that all of you download from the internet and start using on a daily basis for pinging purposes. Superscan is a Windows based mass ping sweeper, one of the fastest, one of the most reliable, one of the most efficient Windows based ping sweeping tools available on the internet. It has the ability to also perform ping sweeping using alternate protocols instead of ICMP, because the ping sweeping or the ping tool that we have discussed till now uses the ICMP protocol to send an ICMP echo request and record an ICMP echo reply sent back by alive systems. However, the Superscan software, which is again available on the internet, can actually be used to use or rather rely on non-ICMP protocols for ping sweeping purposes as well, which makes it extremely good, specifically if the target network is running a firewall which has disabled the ping tool or which has disabled the traditional ICMP based ping sweeping techniques that we have discussed till right now. Another extremely good tool that I like to recommend to all of you is a tool called Ping Sweep. It's one of the fastest ping sweeping tools available. However, it's not a freeware. It is actually a commercial tool which is actually sold to big corporations, big system administrators as well. However, like I said, it is probably one of the fastest ping sweeping tools available on the internet. Another extremely fantastic, extremely efficient and extremely fast tool that I like to recommend to all of you is a tool called Nmap, which has been coded by somebody called Fyodor. It is freely available on the internet for both Windows and Unix platforms. It allows ping sweeping using almost all of the alternate protocols as well. So not only does it have the capability to perform ICMP based ping sweeping, but it also provides the user with alternative protocols that can be used for ping sweeping purposes. There's another software called WS Ping Pro Pack. It's again freely available on the internet at the URL that has been shown on the screen. It's yet another Windows based, fast, reliable, efficient ping sweeper. At this point of time, I like to give a small demonstration which will actually give you a better idea, will actually give you a better picture of how the various ping sweeping tools that we have briefly discussed till now actually work. We'll also be discussing how ping sweeping tools can be used to determine what systems on the target network are actually connected to the internet and what systems on the target network are not alive. Now we just saw how easy it is for an attacker to use automatic ping sweeping tools to determine all the systems on the target network which are alive and also identify those systems which are not alive on the target network. So from a system administrator's point of view, what are various detection and countermeasure strategies that must be implemented to fight ping sweeping probes? I like to discuss the detection strategies first. Manual or automated traffic monitoring must be done. End of the day, ping sweeping is not too difficult to identify, not too difficult to detect. So a system administrator must ensure that manual detection practices or automated detection practices are in place to ensure that ping sweeping can easily be identified by just monitoring all the incoming data packets which are being sent by the target IP addresses or the target users. What are the various countermeasures that are possible against ping sweeping? Ping sweeping can easily be countered with a simple access control list implemented either by a firewall rule or at the router level. And the access control list or the filtering mechanism that is being used in this case is access-list 101 deny ICMP any 8. In other words, what this particular access control list is doing is, it is actually denying any ICMP probing packets which have been sent by the attacker for pinging purposes. However, I like to make a note that if the attacker is using non-ICMP protocols for pinging purposes, such a countermeasure will not work. At the same time, there are actually a lot of different ready-made tools that are available which must be downloaded by system administrators and must be installed and be implemented to counter ping sweeping attacks. So I like to briefly discuss the various tools, countermeasure tools that are available on the internet which counter ping sweeping probes. PingD is a fantastic Unix based daemon that not only allows efficient detection of ping sweeping probes, but at the same time, sometimes if it is configured properly, PingD can be used to send back extremely interesting responses to the target attacker. Because what happens is, a system administrator must try and make the job of the attacker as difficult as possible. So using the PingD tool, it is actually possible for a system administrator to fool the attacker into believing that offline computers are actually online, or rather vice versa, online computers are actually offline. So using the pingd tool, a system administrator can fool the attacker and confuse him with false information. Another fantastic tool that I like to recommend to all of you is the scanlogd tool, which is a fantastic, again, Unix based ping sweeping detecting software. Protolog is again a Unix based tool that not only detects but also logs all ping sweeping probing attempts that are executed by any potential attackers. IPPL is yet another similar tool which can be used for detection and logging of ping sweeping probes that might be executed by attackers on the internet. So as you can clearly see, ping sweeping is very rampant, is extremely easy to execute, and is probably the first information gathering step or first information gathering technique that is normally or very regularly implemented by attackers on the internet.